The whole country was shocked to see the reckless Russian missile attack on the U.S. F-35 aircraft. What made Russia so reckless? August 7th, 2025. The fiery sky over the Persian Gulf witnessed a moment that shook the world. An American F-35 Lightning II, worth nearly $90 million and virtually invisible to radar, was returning from a secret mission when Russia made a fatal mistake. Believing the United States would hesitate, Moscow launched a ballistic missile to demonstrate its power to the world. The explosion crippled the fighter jet, forcing the pilot to make an inevitable dive into the sea. But that was not the end. It was only the beginning. Within hours, Washington would launch a retaliation plan with dozens of aircraft, billions of dollars worth of firepower, and the world's deadliest bombers ever built. This single act of defiance caused a storm that Russia never anticipated. What will happen to Russia? With its modern weapons, can America penetrate Russia's defense system? Let's find out together. August 7th, 2025. The skies over the Persian Gulf trembled with tension. A single F-35 Lightning II, the pride of America's fifth-generation stealth fleet, was returning from a classified reconnaissance mission. Its pilot had already logged over 600 combat hours, and the aircraft itself, worth nearly $90 million, was equipped with the world's most advanced radar-evading systems. To Washington, it was a symbol of technological dominance. To Moscow, it was nothing more than prey. In a brazen act of defiance, Russia's armed forces decided it was time to humiliate the United States and show the world its military might. Confident that the United States would not dare escalate tensions, Russian commanders ordered the launch of a ballistic missile from a fortified coastal battery. The missile, traveling at speeds exceeding Mach 7, locked onto the F-35's weak radar signature and soared into the sky, its fiery tail visible for miles across the desert. Inside the cockpit, alarm screamed. The pilot banked sharply, deploying electronic countermeasures. For 41 seconds, man and machine fought desperately against the incoming weapon. Then, disaster. The missile detonated just meters from the fighter's left wing. The blast tore through stabilizers, sending the $90 million jet shuddering violently. In a heartbeat, the stealth fighter that symbolized American air superiority was crippled. Struggling to control the aircraft, the pilot made the only choice left: an emergency ditching into the endless waters of the Gulf. The jet slammed into the sea, breaking apart, leaving its lone occupant adrift among waves that stretched to the horizon. With only a survival raft and the barest of supplies, he now faced the cruelest enemies of all: hunger, exhaustion, and the unseen predators of the deep. As the news reached the American command, shock gave way to fury. One general summed it up with chilling clarity: "An attack on one of our pilots is not an attack on a man. It is an attack on America." Russia's arrogance had crossed a red line. The clock was ticking. If you were America's top leader, would you immediately order a retaliation? Let me see how the U.S. military responded. Within minutes of the F-35's downing, the Pentagon and CENTCOM moved into crisis mode. The loss of a $90 million stealth jet in international airspace was more than a provocation. It was a direct challenge to American power. The president's decision came in under 4 minutes. Launch Operation Dark Blade, a retaliatory strike that would erase the exact base responsible for firing the missile. The plan was ruthless in its precision. First, 5 EA-18G Growlers would take the lead, saturating Russian radar with electronic noise powerful enough to blind systems across a 200-mile radius. Their task? Make the most heavily defended airspace in the region as blind as midnight. Next, 15 interceptors, F-22 Raptors and F-35s, would sweep ahead, tasked with destroying any Russian missile launches. Each Raptor carried 6 AIM-120 AMRAAMs, giving the formation nearly 90 kills in reserve against surface-to-air threats. Behind them, 10 strike aircraft armed with AGM-88G anti-radiation missiles would target radar sites and mobile SAM batteries, systematically tearing apart Russia's defensive shield. But the core of the plan rested on America's most secretive asset: 3 B-2 Spirits, each valued at $2.1 billion and capable of carrying 40,000 pounds of precision bombs. Between them, they carried enough firepower to punch craters through reinforced bunkers and annihilate hardened nuclear facilities in under 2 minutes. Supporting this aerial armada were two KC-46A Pegasus tankers, each holding over 210,000 pounds of fuel, ensuring the strike package could fly a round trip of more than 6,000 miles without pause. Every element, deception, suppression, strike, and sustainment, was layered like clockwork. This was not reckless escalation. It was a message, crafted in steel and fire. America would answer aggression with overwhelming, calculated force. Before we get into the heart of this war, support us by liking and subscribing, and now join me in witnessing the wrath of American weapons. By 2 a.m. local time, the strike package of Operation Darkblade had crossed the invisible line in the sky, the point of no return. Radar silence cloaked their movement, but every pilot knew. Once they entered Russian airspace, they were flying straight into the lion's den. The first wave belonged to the 5 EA-18G Growlers, opening the assault with walls of electronic static. Their pods blasted out signals exceeding 500 kilowatts, enough to drown out Russia's long-range radars across nearly 200 miles of coastline. Screens inside Russian command centers flickered with false echoes, phantom formations, and dead zones where real aircraft should have appeared. To the defenders, it looked like dozens of bombers were attacking from multiple directions. In reality, the true strike force was threading a narrow corridor of silence. At 2:18 a.m., Russian forces responded with fury. Batteries of surface-to-air missiles, HQ-2 derivatives, and Russian-built S-300s were rolled out of hardened shelters. Within 3 minutes, over 40 missiles streaked into the night sky, their exhaust flames painting fiery scars above Moscow's defenses. Alongside them, hundreds of anti-aircraft shells, some exploding at altitudes above 25,000 feet, filled the air with deadly shrapnel. It was the largest concentrated air defense barrage Russia had unleashed in over a decade. But America had prepared for this storm. The 15 interceptors swept ahead, F-22 Raptors cutting through the chaos. Each Raptor's radar could track up to 120 targets simultaneously, and in seconds, AIM-120 missiles streaked out. Within the first pass, 17 Russian SAMs were destroyed mid-flight, turning the defenders' deadliest weapons into falling fireballs. Still, danger stalked the bombers. As the B-2 Spirits closed within 120 miles of their target, one Russian missile battery managed to break through the jamming curtain. A salvo of 4 missiles arced upward, locking onto the faint thermal signature of Nightfall 2. The warning blared in the cockpit. This was the nightmare scenario. A split-second decision saved the mission. 2 escorting F-35s dove in, releasing AIM-9X sidewinders at close range. In a blinding explosion, 3 of the missiles were destroyed. The 4th streaked past the B-2's wing by less than 300 yards, detonating harmlessly in the darkness. The near miss rattled every pilot, a reminder of just how thin the margin for error truly was. The formation tightened. Despite the wall of fire rising from the ground, the American strike force pressed on. Their course was locked, their target clear. The ghosts of the sky were now within striking distance, and the rain of steel was about to begin. Are you there? Next is the real weapon of destruction, Iran. At 2:27 a.m., the ghosts revealed their fangs. The 3 B-2 Spirits, Nightfall 1, Nightfall 2, and Nightfall 3, glided silently over central Russia, each worth $2.1 billion, yet appearing on radar no larger than a pigeon. Beneath their sleek wings rested the payload that would decide the night. 24 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, each weighing 30,000 pounds, designed to crush reinforced bunkers buried more than 200 feet underground. The target? Russia's crown jewel, a nuclear facility ringed by SAM batteries, buried fuel depots, and a command bunker fortified with more than 15 feet of reinforced concrete. For Moscow, it was untouchable. For the B-2s, it was marked for erasure. Weapons hot, release in 10. The voice of Nightfall 1 crackled across secure comms. At precisely 2:29 a.m., bomb bay doors yawned open. A thunder of steel rained down, 24 bombs dropping at nearly Mach 1, slicing through the thin night air. The first wave tore through surface defenses. Radar masts collapsed, antenna arrays snapped like twigs, and ammunition trucks ignited in violent fireballs. Each detonation measured above 10,000 pounds of TNT equivalent. throwing shockwaves that rattled windows 20 miles away. The second wave found the hardened bunkers. Penetrators drilled deep before exploding, producing craters 40 feet wide and sending tremors across the earth. Entire underground chambers imploded, trapping operators and shattering equipment worth hundreds of millions. Russia's defenses screamed in desperation. 28 more missiles clawed upward, joined by nearly 1,000 rounds of anti-aircraft fire. But the Growlers' jamming rendered their aim useless. Explosions blossomed harmlessly in empty skies, their fury wasted against phantoms. In less than 120 seconds, the impossible had become ruin. Fuel depots erupted, spewing pillars of flame 500 feet high. Secondary detonations cascaded through the base as hidden warheads cooked off one by one. By 2:31 a.m., the nuclear facility was unrecognizable, a cratered wasteland glowing with molten debris. Survivors described it as an earthquake followed by a hurricane of fire. Over 300 defensive weapons were obliterated in place. More than 400 soldiers were confirmed killed instantly, with 530 others wounded, overwhelming local hospitals. And yet, the bombers never broke formation. Engines on idle, stealth systems unblinking, the three spirits banked westward, already fading back into the darkness. Behind them, Russia's most prized military installation was reduced to smoke and twisted steel. The firestorm was complete, but for Washington, this was only the beginning of the message. By 3 a.m., infrared satellites confirmed the scale of devastation. The once proud Russian nuclear complex, a site Moscow boasted was indestructible, was nothing more than a 3-square-mile scar on the Earth's surface. Fires raged at over 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit. Ammunition bunkers continued to detonate in rolling waves, and fuel tanks poured black columns of smoke that reached nearly 10,000 feet into the sky. Pentagon analysts tallied the losses with cold precision. In under 4 minutes, U.S. bombers had destroyed 3 underground nuclear chambers, each valued at over $500 million in construction and equipment. 11 radar systems worth more than $200 million collectively. 27 mobile SAM launchers, each costing $25 million, reduced to twisted wreckage. Over 300 auxiliary defense weapons, from anti-aircraft guns to short-range missile pods. The financial damage alone exceeded $3.5 billion, but the human toll was worse. More than 400 soldiers killed, 530 wounded, and hundreds more unaccounted for as bunkers collapsed. The facility's command staff, including 2 senior Russian generals, were buried under the ruins of their hardened bunker. Russia's response was chaos. Communications across the Eastern Command collapsed. Radar screens were dark, frequencies jammed, and entire sectors of air defense fell silent. The vaunted shield that Moscow claimed could stop any American attack had been dismantled in less than 300 seconds. For Washington, the operation was a brutal but deliberate demonstration. The president addressed the nation at dawn, holding up satellite images of the smoking crater. His words were unequivocal. The United States will not allow its pilots to be hunted, nor its flag to be threatened. Any nation that strikes at America must understand, our response will be swift, decisive, and final. The geopolitical aftershocks rippled outward. Stock markets in the region plummeted by 7% in a single morning. Oil futures spiked to $160 per barrel, the sharpest surge since 2008. Allies from NATO to the Gulf Cooperation Council voiced support, while adversaries watched in silence. Meanwhile, the downed F-35 pilot, rescued after 11 hours adrift in the Persian Gulf, returned home alive, a living symbol of resilience. His ordeal underscored what America had fought to defend. No soldier would be left to the mercy of the enemy. For Russia, the message was humiliatingly clear. Their billion-dollar defenses had crumbled. Their nuclear ambitions lay in ruins. Their arrogance had awakened America's wrath. And across the night, one truth echoed. When the United States chooses to strike, even the strongest fortress can vanish in minutes. By dawn, the fires over Russia's heartland were still burning, visible from satellites orbiting hundreds of miles above the Earth. What began as a reckless decision to strike an American F-35 had ended in the obliteration of a nuclear complex worth billions. In less than 4 minutes, the United States had demonstrated a reality no adversary could deny. When America decides to strike, there is no fortress too deep, no shield too strong, no defense too costly to stand in the way. The numbers tell the story. Over $3.5 billion in damage, more than 400 dead, 530 wounded, and Russia's most prized defenses reduced to ash. But beyond the wreckage lies the message. America's will to protect its people, its pilots, and its flag is unbreakable. For Russia, this was humiliation. For Washington, it was proof that deterrence is not built on words, it is built on action. The world watched, and every hostile commander now understands. If you touch the United States, you invite destruction. The rescued F-35 pilot, pulled from the sea after 11 hours adrift, became a living symbol of that commitment. No American is ever abandoned. And now I ask you, what do you think this strike means for the future of global security? Could this be the spark of a wider conflict, or the lesson that finally restores peace? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this story gripping, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it. Your support helps us bring you the truth behind the headlines.